India Today's Geeta Mohan spoke to Mosab Hassan Yousef, former operative and son of Hamas co-founder. He says all involved in October 7 genocide are dead men walking. The war in Gaza has been going on now uninterrupted for more than a month and a half, and the Israeli bombardment is also continuing with casualties on both sides. The Israeli government has been talking about the attack by Hamas on Israel, while Hamas says this is about the children who are now being affected, the civilians who are being bombarded repeatedly.
You said that you will live to see the elimination of Hamas. What did you mean by that, and how important is it to eliminate Hamas?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. And today is actually Hamas' 36th anniversary. Hamas was founded exactly 36 years ago, today, on December 14th, 1987. And I hope that this year would be the year, the final year in Hamas, and the end of 36 years of violence and destruction, of death and human suffering. I personally would like to see this happen, because enough suffering, enough killing of children and civilians for political and religious gain. I think this game really needs to stop now and as soon as possible.
Okay. But when it comes to the United Nations, and if you look at all the conversations around United Nations, I ask you this because you yourself had gone and pleaded the case of why it is important to eliminate Hamas. As a Palestinian, to look at the kind of resolutions at the United Nations with an overwhelming support to bring about humanitarian ceasefire. We do know that they talk about human shields and that Hamas uses civilians as human shields. But at the end of the day, Mosab, in your appreciation, do you think that the actions that are continuing against Hamas in Gaza Strip is not a direct attack against the civilians?
Well, the Hamas is using the Gazan civilians as human shields. This is a war crime, and the civilian casualty in Gaza Strip is basically Hamas' responsibility as the governing authority. People voted for Hamas. People supported Hamas. They gave Hamas cover. People did not condemn Hamas atrocities and all their violence. Hence, the people of Gaza take part of the responsibility, at least I would say moral responsibility for Hamas actions. Hence, today they pay the price. You know, in war, when an entire nation or a society fall from grace and they don't have the ability to condemn a group of savages killing by the name of religion, waging a religious war, a sacred war, a holy war against an entire nation, against another race, by the name of Allah, whatever it is that God is, this is not acceptable. And such a society would pay the price eventually. What were they expecting? To vote for Hamas? As the majority of Palestinians support Hamas. Even today, after Hamas genocide, Hamas committed the genocide of the century. And the Palestinian people, whether they are in Gaza, the West Bank, diaspora, or in the Arab world, all of them agree that Hamas did a holy work. They don't condemn Hamas for their atrocities, for their genocide. So with that said, there are consequences. Yes, it is sad to see the death and destruction But we need to ask ourselves who originated this and who take responsibility for the use of human shields. It's only Hamas. Hamas started this war. They are the responsible party. And the people of Gaza need to rebel against Hamas. This is their duty.